moving and shaking. And Joe, if you can let me, I think I still got the line open, Joe, so if you can still see, actually I think Joe got disconnected. If you guys can still see and you can still hear, if somebody could give me a verbal, yes, Brian, we've got you, that would be fantastic.
Got you, brother.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Joe Michael. Appreciate that. Well, let's go ahead and get things going, guys. Again, my name is Brian McIntosh. I'm delighted to have everybody on the line tonight. This was something that has been a long time coming. I'm glad that we're recording this. I'm glad we're going to make this available. And you know, it's funny. I got into a conversation with a gentleman just a couple of days ago who has been involved in so many different multi-level marketing or network marketing companies over the years and has experienced a degree of frustration and a degree of disappointment by what, you know, he's experienced with these companies. And I've seen this again and again and again and again. And one of the things that I was experiencing, I was with a company, for many of you that know, I was with a company for 9.5 years. And I did everything that I was told to do. I followed the coaching. I was coachable. I went to the international events. I went to the regional training events. I was in somebody else's living room 5 or 6 nights a week. I was running Saturday trainings on the weekends. I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. I made a list. I made the phone calls. I went to every person that was in my warm market that knew of me and that I knew of them, knew I was involved in this company, because I had called and I had talked to them. I had approached everyone the way that I was instructed. I had done everything I was told to do. And in my 9.5 years, I had a degree of frustration. And don't get me wrong, this company changed my life. We were able to bring my wife home from her nursing career. She's been a full-time stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I learned so much. I grew so much. So I do not take away from the benefits that I derived from that experience. But I will let you know that after 9.5 years, I was a bit disillusioned. I was feeling as though there were some things that maybe I had been told that were not quite right. And so I began to do some research, and I began to look into the industry of network marketing as a whole and to look at what was going on in the industry. And I found out that there were 5 things, or 5, I hesitate to use the word lies, but maybe there were 5 concepts or ideas that were being rapidly spread throughout the network marketing industry that were not necessarily true. Did you guys get that? So half-truths, you can call them lies, you can call them exaggerations, you can call them whatever you want, but they're widespread concepts that are continuously promulgated throughout the network marketing industry that are not factual. And what I began to realize was that a lot of my disillusionment had come from the fact that these things were promoted to me that were not necessarily true, and that the folks that I had spoken to that had suffered disappointment or frustration over the years within the industry was because they came across the same half-truths or exaggerations, and they had expectations that weren't met because of that. And so what I put together for you guys tonight, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take the veil off of this industry. We are going to remove the hype and the BS from the network marketing industry, and we're going to talk about this industry as it should be talked about factually. And I'm going to let you know what these 5 misconceptions are, but then I'm not going to leave you in the mess. I'm going to teach you what the 5 truths are in this industry, and the 5 things that you've heard that are true and that do make our industry wonderful and an unbelievable opportunity for so many that need it and want it and would take advantage of it, okay? But what I want to do is I want to clear the air now, okay, because there's a lot of folks that are looking for an opportunity. There's a lot of folks that are, keeping their eyes open, and they want something to work for themselves and for their families, but there's so much stuff out there. And guys, listen, this is not a shameless plug for my company. In fact, I'm not even going to tell you what company I'm with on tonight's call. I'm not even going to talk about my company. You can just know that if these things are true that I'm telling you tonight, and I joined another company 1.5 years ago, it must have been because I found something that met the 5 truths and that was not promoting the 5 mistruths that I'm going to talk about here. And so you got to know that that's true, right? I would not have joined another company that was simply promoting the same things, again, that I've heard from so many other opportunities throughout the last 20 years. But I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to talk about who my company is or what they do. If you want to know, you can contact me. I'll let you know. What we're going to talk about tonight is the industry as a whole. Now, there's a couple of caveats. The first is, and if you're looking at your screen, man, I hope you guys are getting this. If you're not, you can write these down. Caveat number one is that there are exceptions to every rule. What I mean by that is I'm going to talk to you today about some misconceptions or some untruths or some exaggerations in the industry. And some of you are going to be tempted to say, but there's a guy that I heard about who's done that or who meets that story or that example. And my answer would be, of course there is. Otherwise, there would be zero evidence whatsoever to promote these exaggerations or mistruths, right? So there's an exception to every rule. There's always going to be one or two guys that, you know, can make the exception to that rule. But the exception does not make the rule. It proves the rule. You with me on this? Okay? So don't let the fact that there are one or two examples of what I'm going to talk about distract you from the fact that these are the exceptions, not the rule. Here's the second caveat, is that these 5 lies are not necessarily applicable to all companies that are out there. So this is not an indictment on the network marketing industry as a whole or specifically on your company if you're involved in one. There are many companies that are out there doing it right. So before you get all balled up right about what I'm going to be saying tonight, just ask yourself if the shoe fits. Now, if it doesn't fit, then don't be offended. In fact, you should be excited if you disagree with some of the things I'm going to say, because it means that your experience has been different and maybe the company that you're with is doing it differently, and that's a good thing. So be excited about that. And last caveat is that this talk is designed to get you to really think about what your company is asking you to do, and specifically about for whose benefit you're doing it. Is it for your benefit, or is it for someone else's? And again, this is not a promotional talk about my company. We're not even going to talk about my company. We're just going to talk about the industry, okay? And we're going to talk about how you as an individual can make better decisions about how you spend your time within the industry, especially if you're looking for another company, if you're looking for another opportunity. So let's go ahead and begin. Now, again, I'm going to give you the framework. Guys, initially I'm going to tell you about the 5 lies that have been promulgated over the years in network marketing, and then we're going to move into the 5 truths. So I'm not going to leave you in the mess. Okay? Let's talk about lie number 1. And actually, you know what? I'm trying to find a way to make this, to shrink this up so that you guys only get what I want you to see. How's that? Does that look good? Okay, maybe that's too stretched out.
That's good right there, Brian.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Lie number 1 is that this is a customer-based business. How many guys have ever heard, this is a customer-based business? We're a customer acquisition company. Now, here's what you need to know about lie number 1, guys. Every company says this. Every single company says this. And they may say that, but you've got to look at the evidence. If the only folks using the product or the service are the distributors or the reps or the IBOs or the BAs or whatever name the company gives to its builders, if the only ones using the product or the service are the distributors or the builders, it's not a customer acquisition company. And I'll give you an example. The company that I was with for 9.5 years, and again, this is not an indictment. I'm just simply telling you the facts. The average number of services in that company was 2.5 per distributor. Each business owner or business associate or builder or whatever that company decided to call those individuals, the average across the board was 2.5 services per builder, which meant that those builders were using primarily their own services themselves and not getting any customers or any services or any users or retail buyers outside of their own home. And because this company offered many services, that 2.5 services per builder average was actually on the high side. Most companies is a 1-for-1 ratio. So ask yourself, how many retail users of this product or service does each builder have on average? On average. If it's less than 5, guys, it's not a customer acquisition business. It's a recruiting business. And that's not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing. I'm just letting you know that one of the primary misconceptions of our industry is when companies say we are a customer acquisition company, and they're not. In fact, I came across one company just recently that literally promoted their marketing strategy as get your own stuff and find a bunch of other people to buy your own stuff. And I thought, thankfully, here's a company that's telling the truth. I thought, good on them. They're being honest, right? So this is not in and of itself a bad thing, but hear me out closely, guys. If only the distributors, if only the builders are using the product or service, this is what is called internal consumption. Internal consumption. Now, internal consumption, anytime you hear internal consumption or anytime you can discern from what you're viewing or hearing or seeing, when you go to an overview presentation, when you go the next time you sit through your own company's overview presentation, or anytime you take a look at your own distribution, your own organization, you ask yourself how many services exist per each individual business owner or builder in your organization. If it looks like internal consumption, that is a problem, and it's a problem because internal consumption leads to lie number 2. And lie number 2 is, this is all about residual income. How many times have we heard that? This is all about residual income. It's residual income. Guys, the challenge is that it's not residual income if the company's marketing strategy is internal consumption. Because if the only people using the product or the service are the distributors, then somebody would have to be a master recruiter. They would have to be able to build a massive team to make any money. Because there's no distribution, there's no volume without a massive team if it's all internal consumption. Does this make sense? If the only folks buying or using a product or service are the ones that are the builders in the organization, then unless you've got a team of a bunch of builders in your organization, there's no volume. So if someone's not a recruiter, they don't make any money. And someone is only going to stay on their auto ship for a limited amount of time if they're not making any money, even if they love the product. Even if they absolutely love the product, they're only going to stay on that auto ship for a limited amount of time if they're not making any money. And if they're not big-time recruiters, if they're not out building a team, actively recruiting other people into the business, they're not going to be making any money because it's all internal consumption. So what you have to know is in a company where it's all internal consumption, and again, if the shoe fits, wear it, but if it doesn't, it's okay. I'm just giving you guys the facts. In a company where it's all internal consumption now, only the builders are spending money on the products or services. So if somebody is not out actively building a team, they're not creating any volume, they're not going to be making any money. And in a product-based business, it's even worse. Because in a product-based business, the internet provides a secondary market with eBay and with Craigslist that make it impossible for someone to effectively market their MLM products to retail customers. See, if I didn't want to be a part of Business A, why would I be a retail customer for Business A if I can go on eBay or Craigslist and buy Business A's products or services for pennies on the dollar? And that's what's happening, guys. You can open up eBay and you can find products from almost any MLM company, juices, lotions, potions, vitamins, pills, weight loss products, almost anything that is a product, even from the most elite and proud companies, the companies that are the proudest of their products. You can find these on the internet for pennies on the dollar because that's what happens when people are spending money on an auto ship month after month. They don't consume all the product that they buy, and they get out of the business after 3 or 4 months, and they've got a month or 2 or sometimes 3 or 4 worth of product left over, and they don't want to just throw it away or give it away. So what do? They put it on the internet and they sell it. And they sell it at a discount. So there's no retail market for MLM products anymore because of the internet. And as a result of that, it forces product companies into internal consumption. And what that means is now you're forced now into internal consumption. So even if people wanted to get retail customers, they can't. So the only people buying the products and services are the ones that are in the business. And they're only going to do that for so long if they're not big shot recruiters, because 95% of people are not going to be big shot recruiters. So what that means is 95% of your team is going to quit because they're not recruiters. And when they do, when your team quits, your income goes with it because they're the only ones buying the product or the service. So walk-away income becomes a myth, you see. Do you see any senior vice presidents or diamond distributors or whatever supreme title a company gives somebody, do you see any of these folks walking away and spending 3 or 4 years in the Caribbean and then coming back to the same income they had before they left? And the answer is no. These folks work harder than anybody. And why is that? It's because of internal consumption. It's because they're constantly grinding their wheels to overcome attrition in this model. And again, guys, this is not necessarily altogether a bad thing. I've got a friend of mine who's a senior vice president with a company in an industry who makes $100,000 to $150,000 a month. He works 80 hours a week. He works harder than almost any person I've ever met, and he has to maintain that pace. But let's face it, the dude makes a ton of money, and that's great. He provides an incredible lifestyle for his family. Okay? So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just letting you know what the real deal is. So that's lie number 2. Now, by the way, again, this doesn't apply to every company. I'm just telling you what most companies are propagating out there. Here's lie number 3. It's a plan B that can become a plan A. Now, how many VPs or diamond distributors do you know that got there part-time? Honestly, isn't the typical story we always hear, I got started in the business, I went to work, we made some money, blah, blah, blah. I got to a certain position, and then I quit my full-time job, and I slept on my best friend's floor, and I hawked my golf clubs, and I sold my car, and I walked to work for 6 months until I got this off the ground, and I made vice president, and now I'm living the dream. Isn't that what we always hear? The stories all sound the same. At some point in that middle-of-the-road area where they're not quite making enough to go to replace their income, but they're making just enough where they start to feel they quit their jobs and they go full-time in the industry. They go full-time in network marketing. And that's how they go from being, middle-of-the-road level distributors to being top-level distributors. At some point they quit their jobs and they go full-time. The problem with that is that most people are not in a position to do this. Okay? Most people are not in a position to do this. Especially if you're talking to successful business people, people that own companies, or people that have high-paying jobs. Most people are not going to walk away from a career that they're in where they're making $150,000 a year. If they've been there 18 years and they're 12 years away from retirement, most people are not going to quit that job to, quote-unquote, see if they can make it in their MLM. So it's just not a reality for folks. And here comes lie number 4. And by the way, I have another blurb up there that I was going to talk about, and I will touch on it. What solidified lie number 3 in my head was that I actually called my sponsor because I was at a place of frustration with my last company. I had been doing meetings every evening, everybody's living rooms, every night of the week, Saturday trainings all day long. I was putting in 30, 40 hours a week into my business, and we weren't making progress. In fact, all of the recruiting, all of the building we would do every single month was doing nothing more than just trying to plug the hole of attrition and loss that we were experiencing from people quitting and leaving the business on the other side. And I called my sponsor and said, I don't know what I could possibly do more. And his answer to me was, here's what you need to do. You need to go ahead and quit and get out, finish out your 3 years in the Navy working, with the Navy, and enjoy your family and spend some time with your family. You spent the last 10 years missing dance recitals and everything else. And when you get out of the Navy, save up some money, come with me, and we will go travel the world full-time working in the industry, and I'll make you a top-level distributor with me. And I said to him, so what you're telling me is I can't get there part-time. You're telling me that I can't do this part-time. And he goes, yeah, I don't think it's possible with your schedule and your career. I said, then what the heck have I been telling people for 20 years? You guys with me? Now, here's line number. By the way, guys, if this sounds like I'm giving you the facts of the industry, I'm going to take you to a better place. When we're all done with this, I'm not going to leave you in the mess. I'm going to build a vision for you when we're done here. But we got to get through these. Here's lie number 4. If you stay with one company for 10 years, you'll be a success guaranteed. 97.9% of all people that stay with one company for 10 years make it into the top 3 money earners in the world. Look, the reason why leaders in some companies will tell you they want you to stay in one company for 10 years is they want your internal consumption for as long as they can get it. And if they can convince you to stay, even when you're not making any money, that means they keep getting paid. Now, I know that sounds like a cold, bitter, like sour grapes kind of position here, but guys, listen to it. It makes sense. Look, if your entire business is built on internal consumption, then your number one priority, aside from recruiting, is making sure that your recruiters don't quit, or that your recruits don't quit. because they're the ones that are bringing in the money. Look at the top. They're the ones that are bringing in the services. They're the ones buying the product and service. Look at the top industry money makers. Number one, they didn't make it. They didn't take 10 years to get there, did they? Think about it. And B, they almost never stick around for more than a few years at the top. Why do they move around? Have you ever wondered, why would somebody who gets to a vice president or a senior vice president or a diamond position in a company, why would they ever leave that company and go somewhere else? If the income is that good, why would they leave? And the answer is line number 2, because it's not real residual income. Because the attrition begins to overcome their ability to produce, and their income begins to go down, so they leave and they go to another company where they can generate the same amount of enthusiasm and recreate what they've already done. That's why. And part of this, line number 4, is that the conventions are there to get you trained so you'll have success. Ask yourself, the last convention that you went to, huge convention, how much real training was it, and how much motivation or inspiration or belief level raising was it? Chances are it was a lot more of the latter. Now, that's not true in every company. I'm just telling you generally what happens. Now, that's not in and of itself a bad thing, but the reality is that most of the time, those conventions are there to solidify your belief level so you won't quit, so you'll keep staying in the game, so you'll keep that auto ship turned on. Because they want everybody, even the folks that aren't making any money, to stick around and keep paying that auto ship every month, because that's where the volume comes from. And it's not, guys, I'm not talking bad about the leadership in these companies. I need you to know that. And I may not even be talking about your company. Again, if the shoe doesn't fit, it's okay. I'm just letting you know within the industry, this is what's going on. I'm just telling you from a business standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, if you were one of the owners of the company, wouldn't you want your distributors to keep their auto ship turned on for as long as possible? Of course you would. So you'd put a mechanism in to provide that. And then here's line number 5. The average, insert whatever top label position you want, SVP, Diamond, Double Black Diamond, Ambassador, Crown Ambassador, whatever. The average top level distributor in this company is making $60K a month. You hear that all the time. I told in my last company that, the average distributor makes the average vice president makes $30,000 to $40,000 a month. Here's what I'm finding. That is just not true. There are top VPs and diamonds in our industry that are at the top of the production charts, and they have income to buy Ferraris and Bentleys and all, and that's perfectly fine, but that's not average. The average VP level distributor is killing themselves 50 to 80 hours a week to keep their heads above the water while they wait to find the right people and make it to the top. Even the ones that are making 6 and 7 figures, if they could be totally honest with you, they would tell you that it's not going to stick around. It's not going to stay. Because, again, the fact that the internal consumption is killing their production, they're going to have to move to another company soon, or it's going to begin to drop off. Okay? So they can't tell you that. And so what they do is they go on these lavish, extraordinary spending sprees and things, right, to keep the impression up that the money's going to last forever, but they know that it's not. Now, look, guys, again, I'm not going to leave you in the mess. I'm going to take you right now to the 5 truths of network marketing company. Why did I think it was important to bring this stuff up today? Why did I think it was important for us to share these things? And the reason why is because I am tired of folks being misled in our industry and being upset by what results they do or don't get after a certain period of time. There's things we need to know. But I'm going to tell you there are things that are wonderful about this industry if you find the right opportunity, if you find the right leadership that has the right system. And I'm going to give you the 5 truths of network marketing right now. Truth number 1, there are companies out there that are truly making it all about the customer. And they're putting their focus on that. If you go to a convention or you go to a training and the majority of the announcements for a company are about the benefits to the consumer, that is a beautiful thing. That is a great sign. That means that's where their focus is. They're all about the customer. And if the average business associate or IBO has 30 or 50 or 100 personal customers, I'm not talking about the hot shots, I'm talking about the average folks, then you know that this is a real customer acquisition company. And that's their focus. And I'll tell you the beauty about customer acquisition is, if it's a real customer acquisition company, then it's not internal consumption. And the income goes beyond what's happening with the distributors. Whether distributors are quitting or coming in like crazy or fading off or whatever, it doesn't matter because the customers are there to stay. And if it's really a customer acquisition company, then there really is a residual income opportunity. If you look for a company where the consumer gets real value, and where the consumer would buy your product or service if it were in a store, even if you weren't begging them or asking them for a favor or explaining the benefits to them. In other words, even if you weren't a factor at all, if folks would buy your product or service, if they saw it on the shelf in a store, that is a huge indicator that this is a quality product. And if they would pay for your product or service without your influence, it's a good value. And if the customer loves the product, and if they can't find it on the internet for pennies on the dollar, they'll keep buying it from you. Vis-a-vis residual income. Is this making sense to everybody? So if you've got a service or a product that can't be found on eBay that folks truly love and would pay for with or without your influence, you've got a formula for a winning combination. Truth number 3, a plan B can get you there if your company or your team has a system in place that can be leveraged and that doesn't require you to spend, 6 nights a week out in town, your entire weekend, tied up. If it's not requiring you to spend 20 or 30 or 40 hours a week to make it happen, because most people don't have the kind of time, and even if they did, they wouldn't spend it. So a plan B can get you there if you've got a system in place that can be leveraged. It used to be back in the day, I remember back in my Amway days, 20 years ago, we were told that the guy with the baldest tires makes the most money, right? And that adage might have been true back then, but frankly, today it's wrong. In today's world, with all the tools we have, you can touch hundreds or thousands of people a day without ever leaving your house. You've got all the digital tools available to find out if somebody's open to looking, provide them with the information, follow up with them, answer their questions, move them through the process, not requiring us to give up so much of the time that we've had to give up in the past to be successful in this industry. Here's truth number 4. There is a learning curve. And you're going to have to grow in the industry before you become good at it. And it's going to take time. So, it may not necessarily be true that if you stick around in one company for 10 years, you're guaranteed success. But I am going to let you know this. If you come into a company now expecting miracles in the first year or two, that's naive. See, you've got to be in the right company with a real customer acquisition model and have the system in place. And if you do, you'll earn while you're figuring it out. You see, you don't have to expect to get rich overnight, but don't accept working for free either. Your company's compensation plan should allow you to be compensated as you're going through this, as you're figuring it out. A great example of this is a gentleman that recently got started with me, the company that I'm with now. He was so excited because he called me up and he said he made X number of dollars in his first week, and it was a large figure, but he didn't even really understand how it happened. And I told him, I said, don't worry, that's a good thing. We'll help you figure it out, okay? Now, if you've got a company with real residual income, you can stay there for decades. You can build time and money freedom as well as an exit strategy, because your income will not be dependent upon the amount of recruiting or volume of recruiting that's happening in your business. And that is so critical. And it may take you 10 years to get to a top-level position, but at least you will have been making a living along the way. And here's truth number 5, is that only the top of the very top of position holders in a company are going to be rich. And when I say rich, I mean really, really rich. But if your company offers real, true residual income, you can make 10 times as much money in this industry as you could anywhere else with the existing qualifications you have. If you're willing to work your buns off, if you're willing to literally crush it, kill it, do things you've never done before, put in hours you've never done before, if you're willing to get out of your own comfort zone and stretch yourself, you can make so much money it'll make your head spin. The examples are everywhere. We see people in our industry all the time that have magnificent Robin Leach kind of lifestyles, but let's bring it back a notch. You can equal or exceed your existing level of income if you have a plan B that has true residual income, and you can do that with a plan B kind of work ethic. If it's a real company that's product-based if it's customer-based and it's not internal consumption-based, you can create a real true-to-life replacement income on a plan B kind of effort. It can be done. I've experienced it personally, okay? But just know that when you get into this industry, if you're going to be able to make $1,000 or $2,000 extra dollars in a month on 5 to 10 hours a week, and your business is growing, that's a victory. You're winning. These are positive things. And just like not every pro athlete makes $17 million a year, right? There's pro athletes in football, for example, that are making the league minimum, was $160,000 a year or something like that. Not every professional athlete becomes a multi-millionaire. Not every vice president or diamond level distributor is going to be making $100,000 a month, but that's okay. Because if you're in a company that literally has true residual income, if it's not internal consumption based, then what you're going to find is if you're working 40 hours a week or less, and you're making as much or more than you would have made with your job, then you're winning, because what you've done is you've created time freedom for yourself by becoming your own boss and being able to sustain the same lifestyle you've had before. So I want you to know that in this industry, guys, it's worth it. And there is so much fantastic opportunity that is out there for every single one of us. And there's so many great companies that are out there that can change your life. I mean, really change your life. My life was changed dramatically 10 years ago. We were able to bring my wife home from work and allow her to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. I will forever be grateful to the leaders and the leadership in that company for coaching me and guiding me and helping me to do that. My life was dramatically changed again a year and a half ago when I got involved in a new opportunity that opened my eyes to a new understanding of this industry and the ability to just be honest with folks and let them know what the real scoop is, what the real story is, and how that matters to folks that like to be talked to straight. And so I want you to know this industry has got so much promise for all of us, but it's important that we come in with our eyes open. It isn't important that we come in with our eyes open, that we truly understand what we're in for. So here's what you guys need to know. I want you to know this. This is true. There is so much potential there. If you find a company that literally can position you where it is not internal consumption, it is a customer acquisition model, the residual is true and viable, it's a product or service that the customers want and that they would buy with or without your influence, that is going to create a customer base that pays you long term, and it's not just the distributors buying the product or the service. If you can find that, a true valuable service or product in the industry with a company that is truly customer focused, you can create a lifestyle for yourself. And for some, it will be a replacement income. For some, it will be a lifestyle that they never dreamed possible. For some, it will just be life-changing, like being able to bring their wife home from their job, to be a stay-at-home mom, or a supplement to their retirement so they don't have to work that extra 10 or 15 years so they can have some of those golden years returned back to them. Whatever it is your goal is, whatever it is you want to achieve, whatever it is you dream, it is possible in this industry. But you've got to know what to look for. And you've got to know some of the things that are being propagated and talked about out there are just not true. But if you have someone who cares about you and who's been around the industry that can guide you in the right way, you can find a true opportunity, build a lifestyle for yourself, and create a magical, magical future, guys. And the last point I want to make is that it's worth it. The things that you'll go through, the things that you'll learn, the personal growth, all of these things, it's worth it. I want you to know that I would not trade 1 second of the time I've spent in this industry over the last 20 years. Not 1 second. I'm a better person. I'm a better father. I'm a better coach. I'm a better friend. I'm just all the way around because of the education that I've received here, and I have a lifestyle today that I didn't think was possible 5 or 10 years ago. I'm not rich. I'm not driving a Ferrari. I don't have a yacht. But I'll tell you something. I've got a bright future because I found the right opportunity in an industry, and I had a willingness and desire to learn, and I have that desire to share as much as I can about the truth of this industry with as many people as I can to help folks find success. Guys, I appreciate you giving me your time and attention tonight. I hope you're inspired, educated, excited. I hope you learned something, and I hope everybody's ready to go out and take on whatever opportunity you've been given and make the most of it. Have a super fantastic week, everyone. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
You're so welcome.
Awesome stuff, brother. Thank you.